tell if I don't. Hello,
Oh,
hello, hello. Welcome. Today we are here with Grace and we are talking about creating a lifetime income. This is going to be so much fun. For those of you that don't know me, I am the host here at Her Talk Show. If you have not already subscribed to this podcast, make sure you jump in and subscribe today. These podcasts are guaranteed to have you thinking differently about life and business. Let's jump right in.
Get ready, because today's guest is about to change the way you view your world. This is Her Talk Show, hosted by Sabrina Victoria.
Hello, hello, hello. We have an absolutely phenomenal topic that we are talking about today. And I know so many individuals, especially past pre-COVID or post-COVID here, of individuals who are floundering around. They're lost in the world of finances, trying to do all the things, trying to get all of the bills paid. We have Grace here. She comes from 40 years of heart-centered nursing to hold space to help put your financial house in order so that you can create breathing room. Oh, that feels good. To self-actualize and live your divine purpose and have peace of mind with abundance. Be in the know empowers you to make the best choices of life, especially when it comes to money. You know, one of the things that I always said, the past relationship I was in, he controlled all of the money. And that's the way that he was able to control me and to keep me down. And I know that there's so many individuals living in that same exact circumstance where they're in an abusive relationship. They have no means of getting out because of the lack of finances. We're seeing this all over the place. And we have single moms, we have college students, and we have just families. We have families that are just struggling, people losing jobs and just not able to make ends meet. So, Grace.
aloha.
Well,
Thank you.
so tell us a little bit about your past and how you ended up hanging out with so much money.
Well, I'll tell you, painful past. Yeah, talking about pain that drives us. So, as a nurse of almost 40 years now, Sabrina, both in conventional, holistic as well, doing research and also seeing my own clients in a private practice. I did take time off to homeschool my kids when we moved to Hawaii back in 2008. So big career gap, right? When I came back out in my 40s, nobody wanted me full time because they'd rather hire a younger nurse to come in for them full time. And understanding the journey as a nurse is that none of us are financially educated. And I say this because did I have to have some hard knocks in life in terms of, finances? Absolutely. Devastating divorce that completely wiped me out. I had to start from ground zero. And I'm not alone, as a single parent with 2 kids. I didn't want to pass on any financial burden. If anything medical was to happen to me, 60% of the bankruptcies, 40% of the foreclosures in this country happens when someone gets sick and income gets disrupted. So we're talking about these medical Gofundmes because working class middle America has no safety net. Yeah, if you have 5 to 10 million sitting in a bank, I understand you can take care of yourself, but the rest of us don't. So what is the solution out there? So I get to educate people on these things today. So mainly, now teaching people as that I like to call myself a financial doula or a financial Sherpa in a sense of birthing new understanding when it comes to letting people into the know so that through this education pieces, they now can empower themselves to shift generational trajectories because when you can be in the know, then you can make a better choice. And that's what nurses are great at doing. So I'm partnering up with other healthcare workers right now who are struggling because of the healthcare system failing not only the workers, but also obviously the clients as well in terms of our patients.
Yeah. Do you know the statistics on the GoFundMe? Do you know anything about
Well,
those?
yeah. So about 90% of them never reach their proper funding level. And it's a one-time deal. It's not a income that will last you. I was talking to another nurse just this week, 32 years old, car accident 2 years ago, fractured a femur in terms of the big bone in the leg. And she had full medical coverage. Yeah. Worked full time at the time, making good money. But she was brought to a hospital that treated her because of that emergency that was out of network and racked up a $200,000 bill. And yeah, that's typically what
Wow.
happens. Yeah. So those of us who are not in the know, then today she's filing bankruptcy at the age of 32, had a baby last year. It's like, oh my gosh, yeah, 2 years out of work and right now is on welfare, you know? So somebody's life can just drastically change like that when we are unprepared. So really this conversation is to bring that readiness level, that awareness level up so that people know, guys, there are better solutions out there where you can have as a safety net right now. Put that underneath you, because if you have a life insurance policy, even if you don't have one, there are companies out there in the last 20 years who are doing something called living benefits inside of life insurance, where you can use that death benefit ahead of time for medical things. hmm So
I've
we can
heard
prove
of this. Living benefits inside of what?
life
Inside of
insurance.
life.
hmm So practical ways. Yeah, Sabrina, you like practical stuff. So let's break it down. How do you basically, transform that financial situation? Say I have a $250,000 policy from, a carrier that is only death benefit only. I used to have a progressive policy, term policy. Yeah, 750,000, single mom, 2 kids. I figured I'd need it if something happens to me. I want to make sure they're taken care of because they were still young at the time. And what I was able to do is to basically upgrade from something like that, because that's the old flip phone of the industry, right? The iPhone of the industry, or the smartphone, is one that has living benefits. Now that's 750,000 inside of a life insurance with certain companies, not all companies. Okay, out of 747 life insurance companies out there, I would say majority of them are still doing the old thing, which is you get a death benefit only policy. So you need to be in the know in terms of who are the best companies out there right now doing living benefits, where I can get 100% acceleration and use up all that death benefit for terminal stuff, chronic stuff, critical stuff. The most progressive ones are doing things like Alzheimer's, Lewy body dementia, infertility. So, just find out information and feel free to connect, and I'd be happy to educate. Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, so I have, just so we can educate everyone here, I
hmm
have a term
Yeah.
with, who do I have it with? I have it with Primerica.
Yep.
It's a half a mil on
hmm
my death for my
Yep.
son.
Yep.
I'm paying 32 a month.
hmm
So this is what you're talking about as far
Yep.
as I only have access to that money if I pass,
That's
not if
right. You
like
got
I
it.
get majorly injured or
hmm
paralyzed.
hmm
Nothing.
Exactly. Yeah, nothing, nothing. So
Ooh,
some of the more progressive companies are doing critical injury, so coma, paralysis, severe burns, traumatic brain injury. That stuff can happen to anyone. Yeah, in these very devastating kinds of accidents, you want to have the protection to now be able to leverage up to $1 million,
very
depending on the
interesting. Oh,
size of the. Yeah.
okay. So
hmm
so I like how you're I like how you are comparing it to the flip phone. Okay, so term was really popular like 10 years ago
Sure.
or so. It was like,
That's probably the majority of the policies out there, because a quarter of our population who have life insurance today, and not everybody has life insurance, is through their company. And what do companies offer? Group term. When
okay,
you separate from that company, what happens to that policy?
goes
You
away.
can't take it with you. Yeah. So where's the
Mm,
protection then? Right?
okay, yes.
So, yeah, what we get to do is to upgrade that flip phone to a smartphone now.
I like that.
Now you can, yeah, be able to then have a policy. Some companies are even doing term with full living benefits. That just blows my mind how they can do that. And it's because they have to be financially strong to be able to offer, to pay out. Yeah, because I'll tell you, 99.999% of the term policies never pay out. You know why? We outlive those term policies. But when you add the
Yeah,
element of living benefits, there is a chance that I will get sick, because statistics are 1 out of 2 people in the United States will end up with cancer in their lifetime.
yeah. Yeah,
hmm
so I was told, okay, this makes sense. So I was told with my term, I
hmm
think mine pays out until I'm like until my son, he's 19 now, is
Okay.
maybe like 22 or 23.
Yep. It's a
Um,
term.
Yeah,
So
so
it's going to
you're right.
end
So I would
in about
outlive
4
it.
years. Yeah, you'll outlive it.
Yeah, and then that's it.
And that's it. It's money down the drain that you can never recover. Yeah. So, are there smarter ways to reposition that money so that we can build college fund, business capital expenditures, retirement that is non-taxable? There's, ways to distribute money from life insurance where when you take it out as a policy loan, because personal loan to yourself, according to the IRS, is not taxable, right? Smarter ways to basically leverage money so that it's always earning for you while you're using other people's money to do stuff with. So,
Very
yeah.
interesting.
hmm
Very interesting. So give me an example of this as far as a policy with the living benefit.
Mm.
How does it work? What does it look
Mhm.
like? Obviously, you're explaining what the benefits are.
Yeah.
Who's doing it? You know,
Mhm, mhm,
who, what,
mhm.
where, when, whys, all the
Yeah.
things.
So if you look at an industry comparison, and I've done the research, yeah, so that's my work. Part of it is, yeah, doing the research within the industry. What is a company's financial strength? What is their payout history? How are they positioned in terms of all the stuff that they offer? So some of the most progressive companies I can say hands down, my favorite is probably National Life Group. Yeah, they've been around since 1848, 175-year-old company, A plus rated, incredible payout history. And they also were the ones who innovated the living benefits 20 years ago because they saw
Wow.
what was happening with middle America. Yeah. Those statistics that I mentioned earlier. And so, as a company, for themselves, they were asking this question to bring this solution to the marketplace. What can we do to impact the statistics of middle America, where 60% of bankruptcies, 40% of foreclosures happen when someone got sick? Because there is no safety net. So as a nurse, when I saw the living benefits from them, it's like, oh my gosh, company who will pay 100% acceleration for terminal stuff. So if I were diagnosed with a terminal illness with 24 months to live, I get to, in their policy, accelerate up to 100% of the death benefit ahead of time. Guess what I get to do with it? Because I would be using alternative therapies for myself. I want to stay at home. I get to now have options to do that. Yeah, my health insurance will never pay for stuff that I want to do. Some of these are even illegal in the United States. I literally have to leave the country to get it done. And so options is always great. And then other things like chronic stuff. What if I can't do 2 out of the 6 activities of daily living, right? Or have any form of cognitive impairment? Dementia is a big deal. Yeah, it's rising. Short-term, long-term memory loss, cognitive kinds of functions that decline over time or due to conditions. So if someone scores under 20 for a mini mental exam, that triggers that chronic and it will pay me long term. So let's take, say, a $250,000 policy, right? 2% of that coverage amount would be 5,000 as an income replacement. That will help me pay for
Mhm.
my mortgage. That will help me pay for, all my other bills that's coming in when I get sick, when income gets disrupted. And that's a pretty average, small little tiny policy. Like I mentioned, I had a $750,000 policy myself, and you have a 500,000. So what we
Yeah.
get to do is upgrade those policies to now switch it over to something that will be able to take care of you. So critical stuff are things like the big stuff. Yeah, I'm talking big stuff that take people out of the game. Non-terminal cancer, stats are not good. 40%, up to 50% of our population will be diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime.
Wow.
Heart attacks, strokes happen all the time, and end stage renal. If I were hooked up to a dialysis machine 5 to 7 times a week, there's no way I can hold down a full-time job. So who's going to take care of my finances, right? Not my health
Exactly.
insurance. That's not going to pay my mortgage.
Insurance.
Yeah, cystic fibrosis, major organ transplant, motor neuron disease, blindness is a big deal. A lot of companies do not cover blindness. So when you find companies that do, heck, leverage that, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the critical injury I already mentioned, the 4 triggers are for coma, paralysis, severe burns, traumatic brain injury. You know, I'm thinking of frontline workers, right? Police officers, firefighters, military people, athletes, even day to day life. My nurse practitioner's partner was moving heavy equipment His tractor flipped over, sustained TBI, traumatic brain injury. Today he is permanently brain damaged and can't hold down a job. So they went from a 2-income family overnight to a 1-income family.
Wow.
So we don't think about these things, but they happen day in and day out. And it's the reality of, uh, our middle America where there is no safety net. And the last category is the Alzheimer's Lewy body dementia. They're the only company that does it in the marketplace that I know of. Nobody else is doing the critical injury or the Alzheimer's. So for me, if I can get more for, the bang of my buck, I'd rather do that if I'm upgrading, and find the best company that's going to take care of you and your family.
Absolutely. So how easy and or difficult is it to
Mm,
apply for a living benefit? I know when I did term, I had to get like my blood drawn and
mm.
do this whole little test thing as far as
Yeah.
smoking,
Mhm,
alcohol, all
mhm,
the
mhm.
things.
All the questions,
Um,
yeah. The
yeah,
health
and you're
underwriting
saying
questions.
99% don't get paid out.
Yep.
Living benefits, I mean, if 50%, 40 to 50, you said, not trying to
Mhm.
misquote you, sorry,
Yeah,
will at
that's
some
okay.
point get some sort of form of
Yep.
cancer on them of some form. Um,
Mhm.
how difficult is it to get? It sounds like it might be
So
hard.
the medical underwriting, I love companies who make it really easy for their clients. So when they have a really robust underwriting instrument or department on the back end, then it helps our clients. Yeah. So, um, you know, as far as I know, National Life Group has easy underwriting. So which means as long as you're healthy, and you can qualify basically based on age and health, yeah, and then doing that medical underwriting. um, my kids, they didn't come to take blood or urine, yeah, in terms of their policies. And a lot of people that I have introduced to this particular company, they didn't have to do that. Above 60, that's a whole different question, because obviously, higher risk population, most of the people above 60, according to actuary tables, will be experiencing some kind of a health condition. There will be exceptions. I do have some agents on my team, 60 years old, because they practice alternative health stuff, super healthy, and they got rated elite, so that helps with the cost as well as they're aging up.
Yeah.
So I would say leverage that easy underwriting piece. And if someone is healthy, clean health history, they probably won't even need to come and take bloods and urines.
Yeah. This is so interesting that you're saying this as far as could be a little more difficult at the age of 60, because earlier in the
Yeah.
podcast you were saying a lot of people get term with their work. So if you're
Yes.
retiring
Yep.
at 64, 65, wherever the
65.
thing is,
Hmm.
then you lose it, and
Yep.
then it's harder to get it.
Yep, it's much harder. I love that you observe that, Sabrina, because that is a lot of the times what we see. Because when we
Wow.
have a term policy, through the company, it's a false sense of security, because we've had people where they died while employed, right? Not at the job, outside of the job. And because they didn't read the terms of the policy, they didn't get a single penny, because they had to actually die on the job site for them to pay out. So to really be in the know can make a difference between the life of your family and misery of a family, devastation, not only losing you, but now finding out, holy heck, we're not even getting any compensation with this policy at all. So I always encourage people to have something private, and it's because you get to have full control of this, and then be able to grow non-taxable wealth in the cash value, to save for college, to save for business capital expenditures, to save for your own retirement, and then distribute it non-taxable on the back end, and do it properly, do it the right way. But to do that, you have to know how to do it. A lot of people think, oh, taking money out of insurance. Well, when you make a withdrawal, it becomes a taxable entity, because now that money is no longer protected under life insurance, because tax codes, enable you to do that. In terms of this instrument, the other instrument would be a Roth. as we all know, but there is contribution limits in the Roth. And that's why a lot of people leverage life insurance, because there is no contribution limit based on what you can qualify for.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I understand if you're hurt,
hmm
are there any other benefits to what you're talking about as far as lifetime, income versus
Lifetime
GoFundMes?
income. So one of the ways that I'm doing it myself, right, is to overfund the policy so that I can build cash value on the back end, kind of like my own private bank account inside of life insurance, in case I need it down the line. Yeah. And just setting up my granddaughter, who is 3 months old, yeah, with $1 million policy, because grandma wants to now grow college funding for her, because she has 18 years, yeah, to then compound grow some cash inside of that. Money saved inside of life insurance is not subject to FAFSA reporting, so that's a huge advantage, whereas the 529 is, because it is a qualified plan. And then if she decides to not go to college, then I have a lot more flexibility with that money. She can go and buy businesses, she can go buy properties, investments, whatever she wants with that money on the back end. And then down the line is really getting her set up for that non-taxable income for life that you were talking about earlier. And it's mainly knowing how to leverage these financial tools to create that kind of outcome on the back end. There are also annuities that give you guaranteed lifetime income when we transfer people's 401k over, 403bs, 457, those qualified plans that are perhaps, sitting in a bucket in a job separation, say, just hanging there, yeah, not growing, losing in the market, going up and down like a yo-yo, to now be able to transfer into something where they don't, have to suffer market loss, number one, plugging that massive gaping hole. Second of all, to have guaranteed lifetime income, and to a certain extent, Sabrina, also getting living benefits inside of those two. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So it changes
Wow.
the financial game, for people when they know about how to leverage these tools that are out there. It's kind of like playing Monopoly, yeah, so to speak. You win when you know the rules, and people in the know the rules, and therefore they get to leverage these tools to create a very different picture for themselves and their family. Now,
Hmm.
just to give people some hope, yeah. 4 years ago, if you talk to Gracie about money coming from nursing, like I mentioned, I knew nothing. Yeah, nothing about finances. And from that pain of not knowing anything, um, my certified financial planner put my money into a brokerage account, front end loaded with fees. Who could have predicted COVID? I needed that money. Guess what? I took it out on a low market, lost money on both ends. And if I had had that money inside of cash value life insurance, that money would still be here today. So learning through those hard experiences personally, and it's now wanting to shine the light on some of the better tools out there that people perhaps have never heard of, that can consider to use for changing their lives and their families' lives.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Linda, who's wonderful, by
Me
the
too,
way. Thank you
Linda.
so much
I
for
feel the
hanging out.
same way, Linda.
She says, "Wow, I wish I would have learned this at least 20 years ago. Now at almost 65, whole
hmm
life is so expensive and
hmm
less value compared to term life, which
Yep.
I already have now."
Yeah. So, Linda, what we could do is to look at that. Feel free to book some time off of my LinkedIn. I have my Calendly right there. You can grab, some time with me. I don't charge for my services in terms of these conversations to educate. And the companies pay me on the back, in terms of helping you guys get set up. I do the shopping for you guys in terms of what's appropriate, because, ultimately it has to be suitable. Yeah. And it has to work for you according to your age, according to your goals, according to your needs, in terms of what that is. For someone in their 60s and 70s, I would definitely put you into something or recommend something that has guarantees, because as we age up, that window closes for the amount of time that we have to play catch up. Okay. There is no time. So statistically, if we look at people who earn without market loss versus those who go up and down, because you have to every time the market loses, now waste time playing catch up to go back to ground zero. Look at 2008. 40% down with the real estate market crash, yeah, in terms of the S&P. And that took people in general about 7 to 10 years to recover to get back up to zero, in terms of no loss, right? Yeah. And so when you can get into something that plugs that market loss piece, that can give you guarantees no matter what the market is doing. There are people, companies who are offering 25% upfront bonus, 10% guarantee for the next 10 years. I mean, if you needed money in the next 6 years, that's a good deal right there. Yeah. And to find out, who's doing what in the industry is powerful, because then now you get to position your monies and you get to have a say once you have the right education to do that uh, self-management, so to speak, because you have the best vested interest in your own monies compared to somebody else.
Yeah, I really appreciate that you're mentioning what happened to you during COVID as far as taking
Mm.
money out, because I've heard
Yeah.
that situation so many times where they had money
Hmm.
in and something in a
Yep.
in a stocks of some sort
Yep.
or stocks and
Mhm.
investments, sorry. And yeah, when they took it out because they needed it, the
Yep.
penalties on it were insane.
Especially inside of qualified plans, Sabrina, if you're under 59 and a half, there's a 10% penalty. And then when you take
Wow.
that money out, you also get taxed, right? So you're losing upfront, typically around about 40%, depending on your tax bracket, right? So almost half of your money is gone when you take money out that way. Whereas in life insurance, there's ways that you can distribute it. If there's cash value that you have saved over time, now you can leverage that cash value as a personal loan to yourself, which is non-taxable, yeah, according to IRS codes, to now use somebody else's money to do stuff with while your money's sitting in there earning interest.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So why is it that this is not mainstream? Is this
Well, do you
newer?
think the banks want you to know about this? Because guess where banks have their money? If you Google something called bank-owned life insurance, you're going to see smallest banks to the biggest banks have trillions of dollars inside of life insurance assets. And that's how they make their money, right? They invest in these, they put money into these, and they get the guarantees, and then they loan out the money to you and me. Definitely not at the kind of interest rates, that they're getting. They're paying us pittance compared to what they're getting. And if we're using their money, it's high interest, right? Personal loans, car notes, you name it, that banks do with their monies in terms of earning money on the second, on the other end in terms of leveraging life insurance assets to do that. So, it's kind of like in nursing or healthcare, is pharmaceutical companies gonna tell you that their stuff is not good? Of course not. Even with all the FDA warnings, all the side effects, doctors are schooled to prescribe medications.
Yeah.
They're not schooled in terms of prevention. And so chronic disease wise, because they're, created from habits, the way to take care of chronic things is to change the habit, right?
Totally. Yeah.
Mhm. So it has nothing to do with medications. The cure for our nation is already there. It's our willingness in terms of, am I willing to stop taking sugars? Am I willing to stop eating those white things, the whites, yeah? Am I willing to eat a whole foods diet instead of a depleted diet from processed foods? Those are difficult choices because we programmed ourselves literally over decades to live a certain way, yeah? And it's a very deliberate choice when we, want a very different result. And the resistance, first of all, is within. But I think the first step is really opening the doors to get yourselves educated, like I did, yeah. And 4 years later, I can be here to be helping people understand how these work, because I went through the pain of not knowing. And I went through the pain of losing, with
Yeah.
different products because I wasn't in the know.
Yeah.
I wasn't in the know. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for those that are, we have a ton of people watching live. Thank you so much for being here and hanging out with us. For those of us that are intrigued, they're like, "Ooh, this is interesting. I've never heard of this before." Obviously, they can reach out to you, right?
Yeah.
LinkedIn,
Hmm.
Your information is here. It's also in
Hmm.
a link in the description wherever you're watching us at. Where can people go? What should people be looking up? What should people be
Yep.
researching while they're, looking for some more info?
Yeah, just begin to check out what are these things called living benefits? What are some of the best companies doing living benefits? How is their payout history, right? Look that up
Mm,
because a lot of the times, in fact, if you go to nationallife.com, you will see under our story, their annual report, their business reports, their financials up to 4 years. Do your due diligence is really, how you can get started. And then obviously, I think having conversations like this is a massive shortcut because it allows you to get to know, in terms of in your community, Sabrina. Now, there is an opportunity to tap in and know that living benefits are around, and ways
mm.
that create guaranteed lifetime income with no market loss is a lot better than typically how a 401k or 403b or even IRAs and Roths can earn for people, because all those typically are subject to market loss. So getting back into a private pension gives people a leg up. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Hmm.
Very cool. So, people who want to reach out to you, what are they
Yep.
reaching out to you for? Who do you
Hmm.
help? How do you help? If somebody does
Great
book
question.
a call with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Mainly just to have their questions answered, as a resource to point them in the right direction. Any curiosities, hey, I heard about this thing called living benefits on Sabrina's show. Is there a way that I can learn more? I will send you to resources that you can do your research on. So either LinkedIn as Grace Mayen Fu, or my email is the same, gracemayenfu@gmail.com is also an easy way to reach out to me as well. Mhm. And just ask
Beautiful.
questions. Yeah, just ask questions. I'm here for being a resource to the community.
Beautiful. That's
Mhm.
fabulous. Well, thank you so much, Grace, for being here. This was definitely an eye opener for me, and I know so many
Thank you,
others,
Sabrina.
which is why so many people are listening live right now. So you've got our brains working, and that is what I love about this podcast so much. Is
Mm.
just the
Thank you
brilliant
for what you
women.
do.
Yes, the brilliant women that come on here and just really help us expand to doing things a little bit differently than the way that the
Exactly.
normal the mediocrity of our
Hmm.
lives sometimes leads us, and we got to we need to educate
Elevate.
ourselves. Elevate.
Yeah.
I love that.
Educate, elevate through education. Yeah. Up level that understanding. Hmm.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts, Grace, as we close up here?
Well, you know what Einstein says, we can't solve our current problems with the same mindset that created it. Yeah.
Mm,
So to up level means to at least be a little bit curious and open to finding different answers for ourselves in our lives. Financial is a big deal. And if you guys are interested, David Dibble is doing something with 100 million dreamers on LinkedIn in terms of every Wednesday meeting. And why are we doing this? Elevating collective consciousness. And like I mentioned, that Einstein quote, right? In order for us to have very different legacy systems, healthcare, education, government, financial institutions, we need to have a very different consciousness to create something that now can serve the greater humanity, so to speak. Yeah.
beautiful.
And yeah. Hmm. Dive in
Beautiful.
and just every single one of us here is for a reason to um, elevate lives, to serve. And so thank you, Sabrina, for your service in this community and so many others as well.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, this has been absolutely delightful. Thank you so much for being here. All this information. I took a whole huge page of notes myself, and I hope everyone listening here has done the same. Please feel free to re-watch this podcast. There was so much amazing information that was dropped. Really start to educate yourself on this thing called living benefits, and reach
Hmm.
out to Grace. I can tell you from personal experience, she is incredibly heart-centered and really here to educate people for real. Drop into
Absolutely.
her Gmail and or her LinkedIn, connect with her, and make sure you get all of your questions answered. That brings us to an end of yet another incredible episode here at Her Talk Show. To our dedicated listeners, please follow, like, and share. And once again, my name is Sabrina Victoria. I invite you to join our community here, Her Nation, where we continue to uplift each other by having conversations just like this every